Welcome back to the deep dive. And our focus today is management architecture. We are drilling deep into the mechanics of building effective organizations.
Right.
So we're moving beyond the abstract theories and really into the functional blueprint. Everything from how work gets divided all the way to those surprising social networks that run parallel to the official org chart.
The hidden wiring.
The hidden wiring. We're basically giving you the shortcut to understanding the physical and, I guess, the psychological structures that underpin every successful enterprise.
And this is so crucial because, I mean, structure is often the unsung hero of organizational success. Or, on the flip side, it's silent killer. You know, strategy is exciting, technology is shiny, culture is, of course, super important. But if the foundation, the structure, is flawed, the whole system will, well, it will eventually just seize up.
It's the backbone.
It is. As our source material lays out so clearly, a sound organization is the indispensable backbone of effective management. And if that backbone lacks clarity, anything built on top of it is just going to struggle, it won't scale, it can't coordinate, it can't adapt. So today, we are going to explore how management uses the act of organizing to inject efficiency, human dynamics, and I think most importantly, enduring scalability into the business.
Let's start with that fundamental question then. Why even bother with structure?
Right.
I mean, especially in a fast-moving startup, you could just tell smart people to, figure things out. Structure can sometimes feel like it's just slowing you down.
Yeah.
But once a firm starts to scale, this formal process becomes absolutely critical. Why is that?
Because without a clear structure, you're not really scaling. You're just multiplying chaos.
That's a good way to put it.
And our sources don't just give us vague answers here. They detail 8 specific foundational reasons why organizational structure is so vital. And I think we can synthesize these into, say, 3 major pillars: efficiency, people, and future-proofing.
Okay, I like that. Efficiency, people, future-proofing. Let's start with efficiency.
Let's. So the structure exists primarily to deliver speed and clarity. And the first reason for that is specialization. Organizing divides the massive total workload of a company into these manageable, compact jobs. And when similar jobs, say every task related to compliance or every task related to data analysis, are grouped together into a finance department or a tech department, that directly promotes high velocity, speedy, and efficient performance.
So people can just focus.
They focus on a narrow related set of tasks, and they become masters of those tasks. The structure, it actually forces expertise.
It's about breaking down something overwhelming and just giving people a really focused mandate.
Exactly. And that naturally leads to the second major benefit, which falls right under our people pillar: optimum use of human resources. Okay. If you clearly define every single job, its duties, its tasks, its required outputs, you eliminate that constant low-grade friction of, duplication and overlapping responsibilities.
Is that my job or your job?
All of that. And when roles are clearly spelled out, it becomes possible to match the right person with their specific qualifications and experience to the right job.
And that's not just about, admin.
No, this isn't just administrative hygiene. It's a critical driver of both talent utilization and, crucially, job satisfaction. People are happier and way more productive when they know their lane and feel like they are uniquely suited for the work they're doing.
So if specialization defines the role, and human resources optimizes who's in that role, then the structure itself must be the glue that holds all those separate pieces together.
That is the third point perfectly. Coordination and cooperation. Think of the structure as the enterprise's central nervous system. It is the mechanism for unifying and harmonizing the efforts of all the different individuals and work groups. So when you establish clear lines of authority, you minimize confusion and conflict. Managers know precisely to whom they report and who, in turn, reports to them. These clear, prescribed lines act as essential channels of communication, making sure that everyone's efforts are additive, not redundant.
And as we touched on earlier, this provides psychological benefits too, right? Not just mechanical ones.
Absolutely. The fourth benefit touches on that psychological reality: security and support.
Right.
When employees are placed within a sound structure, they have a definite status, a definite position. This clarity removes uncertainty and provides a huge source of security, support, and, frankly, profound satisfaction for both managers and workers.
Yeah, knowing where you stand is a massive stress reducer.
It is. So now we can move to that future-proofing pillar, starting with reason number 5. growth and diversification.
Right.
No company can scale indefinitely just relying on sheer willpower or, a charismatic founder. Organization provides the formal framework for expansion. It literally multiplies management strength because it allows for clean delegation and the creation of new specialized units.
Interesting.
Our source material emphasizes that small firms become big precisely because they adopted a sound organizational structure early on. It increases the enterprise's capacity to undertake more activities without chaos, or what the source calls dislocation.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, if you suddenly hire 50 new people, they need slots in the architecture, not just a desk to sit at.
Exactly.
So what about dealing with the outside world? Market shocks, technology shifts, that kind of thing.
Well, that brings us right to the sixth reason: adaptation to change. A properly designed structure has to be flexible. It has to be robust enough to adjust to external changes, whether that's a massive technological shift, a new competitor entering the market, or changes in resource availability.
So the structure itself is a shock absorber.
In a way, yes. Through its system of defined job positions and authority relationships, it ensures work continuity. The jobs remain even when the people doing them change. It protects the institutional knowledge.
Okay.
Seventh, structure is the foundation for training and development. By facilitating adequate delegation of authority, a concept so important we're dedicating a whole part to it later, it forces lower-level managers to take initiative and engage in creative thinking.
So it's a development tool.
A huge one. And the structure also establishes clear, objective benchmarks for merit, for how rewards are distributed, and for promotion. If the structure is clear, the path to advancement is also clear.
And finally, the eighth reason. This one sort of circles back to the C-suite, right?
Yeah.
How does all this detail actually help the management team themselves?
The final reason is simply that structure is a massive aid to management. It focuses their attention directly on the ultimate enterprise objectives. It provides a reliable mechanism for directing all work activities toward those goals. And, crucially, it enables management to predict and track the work activities of different groups, which is basically an early warning system. If performance metrics slip in Department X, management knows immediately where to apply corrective action. It's the enterprise's built-in blueprint for predictability and course correction.
Okay, so we've firmly established the why, the 8 indispensable reasons for creating a strong organizational backbone. Now we need the how. If I'm a founder or a senior leader looking to structure my growing firm, what is the systematic step-by-step process to turn that philosophy into a functioning system?
It is a very logical progression, actually. It moves from analyzing the total required output all the way down to ensuring continuous coordination.
Okay.
So step 1 is the division of work. This is the most fundamental step. You have to analyze the total work needed to achieve the organization's objectives. Everything, from securing raw materials to cashing the final check, and break that work down into specific manageable jobs. This is essential because, obviously, no one person can handle the entire scope.
Right.
This initial division forces the specialization of efforts and skills. For instance, in a big university, the core activities might be teaching, research, and administration. The teaching activity is then further divided by subject matter: chemistry, history, literature, and so on.
So you take the massive job, you slice it up, and you create hundreds of individual positions. What do you do with all those individual pieces then?
Then you move to step 2. Grouping jobs or activities, which our sources refer to as departmentation.
Departmentation.
Yeah. This is the moment you actually start building the architecture. It involves classifying similar or related jobs into manageable units, departments, divisions, sections, and each one is placed under a specific manager. This grouping facilitates that unity of effort we talked about earlier.
And how do you decide how to group them?
Well, the interesting part here is that there are multiple bases for grouping. You could group by function, right? All the accountants in finance, all the salespeople in marketing.
The classic model.
The classic. Or you could group by product, creating a division for the sedan and a whole separate division for the truck. You could even group by territory, the North American team versus the Asian team, or even by customer type, like corporate sales versus individual consumer sales.
So management has a big choice to make there.
A huge one. They have to weigh several key things: achieving adequate specialization, facilitating coordination, ensuring administrative economy, and, even considering the physical or psychological limits of their employees. The choice made here in step 2, it really defines the company's DNA.
So once we have the structure, the boxes on the chart, we need to populate them. That must be step 3.
Precisely. Step 3 is assigning duties. This is the matching phase. You have to assign each group of activities, each defined job, to the individual best suited to perform it. This requires careful consideration of the employee's qualifications, experience, aptitude. You wouldn't assign the technical duties of operating a specialized manufacturing line to someone with only a liberal arts background. Conversely, you put the chartered accountant in finance and the engineering or expert in production. The performance of the entire enterprise hinges on the quality of this match.
But, a job without power is just a suggestion. How do we turn that assigned duty into an enforceable mandate?
And that is the critical step 4, delegation of authority. After the duties are assigned, appropriate authority must be delegated to that person so they have the power to actually execute the job.
Give me an example.
Sure. If you assign the marketing director the duty of launching a new product, you have to delegate to them the authority to approve marketing budgets, to hire temporary staff, to contract with agencies. Without the authority to purchase or commit resources, the assignment of duty is hollow.
And this very active delegation is what builds the vertical spine of the organization, right?
Yeah.
The hierarchy itself.
It is. Delegation creates the chain of command. This flow of authority from the top manager all the way down to the lowest level is the mechanism for establishing definite levels of authority, the hierarchy. Authority always flows downward, and it decreases gradually in content and scope as it descends. This establishes the clear superior-subordinate relationships and defines the formal communication channels. It is the visible architecture of power.
So we've built the entire system. We've divided the labor, grouped the departments, staffed the roles, and fueled them with authority. What's the final step to make sure this machine runs as a synchronized whole?
Step 5 is coordinating activities. The final crucial step is synchronizing the efforts of all the different individuals and departments. Interrelationships between all positions must be defined so clearly that there is absolutely zero ambiguity about who takes orders from whom and to whom orders can be issued.
Right.
This ensures efficient teamwork and prevents silos from forming that might undermine the overall enterprise objectives. It is the continuous process of fine-tuning the newly built machine.
Okay, so far we've focused entirely on the structure that management designs and plans out the intended blueprint. But organizations are inherently human, and where there are people, there are spontaneous relationships.
And here's where it gets really interesting. We now have to dive into the contrast between the rigid, official structure and the dynamic, spontaneous human network. This tension is where real-world management often succeeds or fails.
The official versus the unofficial.
Exactly. Let's start by just reinforcing the formal organization. Scott described it as a system of coordinated activities of a group of people working towards a common goal under authority and leadership.
So it's the machine.
It is the deliberate machine, designed by management, focused purely on achieving organizational goals. It's a structure of well-defined jobs, definite authority, and clearly established relationships. You have to adapt to it. It doesn't adapt to you.
So if the formal structure is the official playbook, what are its defining characteristics?
We can identify 8 core defining characteristics. 1, it is deliberately created and initiated by top management. It doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
2, it is fundamentally based on specialization and division of labor. 3, it explicitly defines the authority and responsibility for every single person within that structure.
Okay.
4, it's developed through the conscious required act of delegation of authority. 5, it operates under written rules and formalized procedures that must be strictly followed.
No exceptions.
Pretty much. 6, and this is critical, its focuses on the jobs to be performed, not the individuals doing them. If a person leaves, the job remains, defined by the structure. 7, it exists purely to achieve organizational objectives, regardless of individual preference. And 8, its physical reality consists of a defined set of jobs and positions, the boxes on the chart.
The efficiency of that structure seems undeniable. It's stable, it's predictable, it's clean. What's the great advantage of following that formal chain of command so meticulously?
The merits really stem from its stability. First, the clear definition of roles avoids costly duplication of effort, and it clarifies where responsibility starts and ends.
Okay.
Second, it maintains the essential unity of command via the scalar chain, which ensures no one reports to 2 different bosses. Third, because relationships are so defined, fixing responsibility when something goes wrong is easy and swift. Fourth, it provides stability, guided by rules that endure beyond changes in personnel. And finally, it provides the necessary, non-negotiable framework for all organizational activities to occur.
But rigidity always comes at a price. What are the key shortcomings of relying only on the formal blueprint?
And the price is often paid in human capital and speed. First, its rigid nature, the prescribed policies and rules, can actively stifle creative talent and initiative. It forces employees to operate strictly within the lines.
Colors inside the lines only.
Exactly. Second, communication must strictly follow the established chain of command, which often leads to frustrating procedural delays in decision-making.
The bureaucracy.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy. Third, by focusing so intensely on tasks and structure, the formal organization often fails to fully understand or appreciate the complex, necessary reality of human relationships within the workplace. And fourth, the organization chart, which is the visual representation of the formal structure, is fundamentally incomplete. It never shows you how the organization actually works in practice.
And that gap, the difference between the official chart and how things actually get done, that's filled by the structure management didn't design. So let's talk about the informal organization.
The informal organization is the spontaneous reality of work life.
Yeah.
Keith Davis's definition is excellent here. He says it's the network of personal and social relationships not established or required by formal organization. It's the human overlay.
Right.
It arises naturally when people share proximity and time working on the production line, sharing the break room, meeting in the parking lot. They interact socially. They develop friendly relations and form groups based on common interests.
So it could be anything. Anything. You might have an informal group focused on mountain biking or another dedicated to discussing a specific political issue. This spontaneous system emerges naturally within the formal structure, but it exists to meet social and psychological needs, not production targets.
So if the formal structure is the rigid skeleton, the informal organization is like the necessary connective tissue and the nervous system. What are the features that define this hidden structure?
Well, it's defined by spontaneity and relationships. One, it's entirely unplanned. It just arises spontaneously due to shared interests or attitudes. Two, it reflects genuine human and social relationships, not mandated ones. Three, its basis can be anything. Common taste, language, religion, culture, even just sharing a frustration.
Yeah.
Four, membership is completely voluntary. You can't be assigned to an informal group. 5, it has no written rules. Its behavior standards are dictated by oral norms evolved through mutual consent social pressure, not written policies. 6, it is, by definition, not portrayed on the official organization chart. 7, it emerges specifically to fulfill the intrinsic social and psychological needs of the people. And 8, it's radically flexible. It often cuts across departments. The accounts clerk, the sales manager, and the factory supervisor can all belong to the same informal group, unified by some non-work interest.
Now, management might view this spontaneous network with some suspicion, but the source material suggests it provides incredible value to the enterprise, even if it wasn't planned. What are its functions?
Oh, the value add is enormous, especially in bolstering employee retention and engagement. First, it provides a crucial sense of belonging. It gives the employee self-worth and recognition, relieving them from that crushing feeling of being just one among several cogs in the formal machine.
Makes you feel human.
It does. Second, it offers necessary relief from monotony. Socialization provides an essential outlet for the boredom and routine tasks mandated by the formal job description. Third, it provides practical benefits, like the solution of work problems. Members often share job-specific knowledge, shortcuts, or historical context, assisting each other in performing tasks far quicker than relying on official manuals.
And it protects people too, right?
It does. Fourth, it provides protection from outside pressure. It acts as a necessary collective check on the arbitrary or overly strict actions of managers, providing psychological safety to the workers.
And its impact on communication is famously explosive.
It is the communication engine that runs on emotion. Fifth, it is a rapid communication channel. It provides an outlet for sharing tensions, joys, and frustrations. This informal communication, the grapevine, is fast.
Oh, yeah.
It provides immediate feedback to management on moods and concerns that the formal reporting lines might filter out. And crucially, it often provides information not yet available formally, giving employees a sense of being in the know.
And it fosters creativity.
Yes. Sixth, it supports innovation and creativity. The psychological protection offered by the group allows individuals to experiment with new ideas, to talk through alternative solutions before presenting them formally. It's a testing ground that also helps develop critical leadership skills among the members.
Okay.
Seventh, it acts as social control, promoting common interests and values, and using social disapproval to keep members in line with group norms. And finally, point 8. It provides vital support to formal organization. It lends necessary flexibility and humanism to what can otherwise be a cold, rigid structure. Sometimes a competent informal leader can temporarily fill gaps in management or leadership abilities that the formal chart hasn't yet accounted for.
The power of the informal structure is clear, but so are its potential harms. When does this essential human element turn toxic or disruptive to the company's goals?
The disruption really occurs when the group's norms clash with the company's mandate. First, conflicting norms. If the informal group evolves a norm contrary to official performance standards, say, the collective agreement is to produce only 80% of the possible output. Achieving formal goals becomes incredibly difficult, despite management's best efforts.
Right.
Second, there's a fundamental resistance to change. Informal organizations prefer the status quo because new work methods, new technology, or new organizational changes are perceived as a direct threat to their established beliefs, values, and power structure. This leads to major persistent friction. Third, employees can face deep role conflict. Imagine a junior manager whose formal role requires them to push for higher output, but their informal group membership requires them to abide by the group's go-slow mandate.
That's a terrible position to be in.
It's highly stressful. They're pulled between career duty and social obligation. Fourth, the pressure for conformity can be oppressive. It forces members to adhere to group norms, even if those norms are clearly harmful to the formal organization's broader interests, sacrificing personal judgment for group acceptance.
And the big one, rumors.
And fifth, the risk of rumor. The informal channel is a breeding ground for inaccurate information. When formal policies are ambiguous or slow to arrive, the grapevine fills the vacuum with rumor, gossip, and speculation, which can cause serious, rapid damage to morale and company credibility.
This contrast truly captures the challenge of modern management. The formal provides stability and control. The informal provides speed and necessary human flexibility. But they operate on completely different rule sets. Let's synthesize the core distinctions for the listener.
Okay, we can break down the 12 key differences that define their relationship. First, formation. Formal is deliberately planned by management. Informal emerges spontaneously from social interaction. Purpose. Formal is for planned organizational goals. Informal is for satisfying social and psychological needs. Structure, nature. Formal is well-defined, rigid, stable, and predictable. Informal has no clear-cut definition, is flexible, unstable, and highly unpredictable.
Okay.
Focus. Formal focuses on jobs, functions, technical aspects. Informal focuses on interests, human desires, and social aspects.
Big difference.
Huge. Behavior standards. Formal standards are written, prescribed, enforced by management. Informal standards are unwritten oral norms evolved by mutual consent.
Okay.
Leadership. Formal leaders are managers by their position and title. Informal leaders are chosen voluntarily by members based on their personal qualities.
Influence versus authority.
Exactly.
Right.
Which leads to authority. Formal authority arises from the person's position in the hierarchy. Informal authority arises out of personal influence, charisma, or technical qualities. Communication. Formal communication strictly follows the scalar chain. Informal communication flows rapidly in any direction as per convenience, the grapevine. And finally, rules. Formal rules are written and fixed, with explicit penalties. Informal rules are oral norms, with violation leading to social disapproval or ostracism.
It's clear there are two sides of the same coin. I mean, the formal structure is the scaffolding, but the informal structure is the gravity, dictating how things truly move.
Precisely. Successful management is the delicate art of designing the formal system while simultaneously acknowledging, monitoring, and occasionally gently influencing the informal one.
Okay, let's shift back to the macro choices of that formal structure.
Right. And Peter Drucker's famous quote really encapsulates this moment. He said, "Organization structure is an indispensable means, and the wrong structure will seriously impair business performance and even destroy it."
Such a high-stakes decision.
Extremely. Generally, the structure of relationships between various positions looks like a pyramid. It is the core mechanism for achieving goals by defining roles, duties, and authority. And the two primary choices for large organizations are functional and divisional.
Let's begin with a functional structure, which is the most widely adopted and often considered the most logical form.
In the functional structure, every major basic function is organized as a separate department. So in a classic manufacturing enterprise, you'll see production, sales, financing, and personnel.
The classic silos.
The classic silos. And even within those departments, differentiation occurs. Production might be subdivided into quality control, processing, and repairs, the entire structure is optimized around deep occupational expertise.
So why is this structure considered the most logical? What are the inherent advantages of grouping activities purely by function?
Well, it creates hyper-efficiency and control. It offers 8 major advantages. 1, it's the most logical, time-proven, and natural way to group tasks that are inherently similar.
Okay.
2, it provides massive occupational specialization. Everyone in a department speaks the same language, finance, people talk finance, and this leads to optimum manpower utilization and high operational efficiency. 3, it ensures that all necessary activities, even the less glamorous ones like maintenance or compliance, receive due and dedicated attention. 4, it dramatically facilitates supervision. Managers only have to be experts in a narrow range of related tasks, making their oversight highly focused and effective.
That makes sense.
5, it permits tight, effective control over performance standards within that specialized department. 6, it eliminates costly duplication of effort. You only need one central accounting department, one centralized IT help desk, or one centralized purchasing unit.
Cost savings.
Big cost savings. 7, recruitment and training become easier and less expensive as managers only need expertise in that narrow function. And 8, coordination and control within the department are simple as staff understand the interconnected work processes.
So if I'm running a company that produces one highly technical product, say specialized medical devices, functional seems ideal because quality and depth of expertise are paramount and cost control is tight. But what happens when that company inevitably tries to diversify or expand its product line?
That's exactly where the structure starts to break down. The specialization that provides efficiency can also lead to crippling disadvantages. And there are 5 major ones.
Okay.
1, narrow perspective. This is the biggest risk. Specialists become so focused on their function that they lose sight of the total organization's objectives.
Can you give an example?
Sure, the production department might insist on manufacturing a product to exacting standards, but that results in a cost that makes it completely unmarketable by the sales department. They just missed the bigger picture.
Okay, what's next?
2, difficult to fix responsibility. When system-wide problems arise, say customer dissatisfaction increases, it's extremely difficult to pinpoint accountability. Was it the marketing department's faulty advertising, the production department's poor quality, or the finance department's refusal to allocate funds for better materials?
Blame game.
The blame game, exactly. 3, inflexibility. The deeply specialized skills lead to inflexibility. Functional heads often lack the broad, varied experience needed to move into top general management positions because they've only operated in one silo. 4, coordination difficulty. As the organization grows large, coordination between the separate departments getting marketing, production, and finance to agree and act swiftly becomes increasingly difficult, causing major delays in critical, cross-functional decision-making.
And last one.
5, interdepartmental rivalry. Because resources, budget, and power are centered in the functional units, managers often try to build their own functional empires, which leads to political infighting and fierce conflicts over resource allocation.
So if the functional structure struggles with large-scale diversification and cross-functional conflict, the divisional structure offers a radical alternative by reorganizing the entire company around the product itself.
Exactly. The divisional structure groups activities based on products or services. Every major product line, plastics, chemicals, electronics, is organized as a separate semi-autonomous division. And the critical point is that each division then houses its own internal functional departments, its own purchasing, production, sales, and personnel staff.
So it's like a company within a company.
That's a great way to think about it. This is essential when product expansion is crucial or when products are complex, capital-intensive, or serve radically different markets. Think of a massive conglomerate like a major auto manufacturer where the luxury division operates completely differently from the economy truck division.
That sounds like a fast track to speed and accountability, but also incredibly expensive. Let's look at the advantages first.
The primary advantage is focus and agility. There are 7 key merits here. 1, improved coordination. By integrating all the necessary activities, production, sales, finance under one divisional head for one product line, coordination problems are significantly reduced. They are one P&L unit. 2, product focus. It facilitates rapid product expansion and diversification by dedicating individual managerial attention to each line. The division head's entire focus is success in that particular market. 3, specialization. It allows for specialization of both physical facilities and human talent specific to that product or market need. 4. Easy accountability. The performance and financial contribution of each division can be easily evaluated using specific profit metrics. Responsibility for success or failure is clearly fixed on the divisional head.
No more blame game.
No more. 5. Facilitates growth. New divisions, say a new battery technology division, can be added seamlessly without disrupting the existing operations of the old divisions. It's inherently scalable.
And it develops managers.
It does. That's 6, managerial development. Because each division functions like a semi-autonomous mini-enterprise. Managing it forces the divisional head to develop a wide variety of skills, finance, marketing, production, which is excellent training for top corporate management. And 7, flexibility and speed. The structure is highly flexible and adaptable to localized market changes. Decision-making is faster because the approval process is contained within the division, closer to the action.
So you're trading that tight cost control for localized speed and market agility.
Mm-hmm.
What are the inevitable disadvantages of carrying all that duplication?
You hit the major trade-off right away. There are 5 disadvantages. 1, duplication of facilities costs. Duplicating staff functions like HR or legal support and even physical facilities across every single division leads to significantly higher operating costs and overheads. 2, loss of centralization benefits. The inherent cost savings and specialized expertise derived from centralizing massive functions like treasury or legal counsel are often lost or diminished.
Right.
3, underutilization. If the demand for one specific product line is insufficient, the specialized plant capacity or personnel within that division may be underutilized, wasting the significant investment you made in duplication. 4, divisional focus. Managers might become so intensely focused on their own product line success that they fail to collaborate, or worse, ignore the total shared objectives of the overall organization.
And 5.
Conflict. Because the divisions are semi-autonomous, they often compete fiercely, leading to significant internal conflict over the allocation of finite corporate resources, budget, and talent.
It sounds like the choice between functional and divisional is one of the most important strategic decisions a growing management team makes. It's the defining choice between depth of expertise versus market breadth and speed.
It absolutely is. The decision determines whether you optimize for cost and quality or for growth and market agility. To summarize the fundamental differences, just think about a few things.
Okay.
Formation. Functional is by function. Divisional is by product. Specialization. Functional expertise versus product focus. Cost. Functional is economical. Divisional is expensive. Coordination. Difficult in functional, simple in divisional. And responsibility for profits. Can't be fixed in functional, but can be easily fixed on each division. It's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so we've built the architecture, the structure. Now we need to fill it with the mechanics of power and accountability. We need to understand how the mandate actually flows down that organizational backbone.
Right. For the structure to function, the triad of authority, responsibility, and accountability must be clearly understood and perfectly aligned. They are the gears that translate the design into execution.
Okay.
Let's start with authority. Henri Fayol provided the concise definition: the right to give orders and the power to exact obedience. Authority is the legitimate right to act.
And what are the features that define this legitimate right?
There are 5 defining features. 1, it is a legitimate formal right granted to the position, not the person. 2, it is the right to command, control, and the power to take and enforce necessary decisions. 3, it must be used strictly to achieve the organization's objectives. 4, it's the element that formally defines the superior-subordinate relationship. And 5, and this is crucial, authority can be delegated downward through the hierarchy.
Okay, so then we have responsibility.
Yes, Coons and O'Donnell kept this very simple. The obligation of a subordinate to whom a duty has been assigned to perform duty. If authority is the right to act, responsibility is the work to be done, the obligation to execute the assigned task.
And the final piece is accountability.
The closure mechanism. Accountability, as McFarland defined it, is the obligation of an individual to report formally to his superior about the work he has done to discharge their responsibility.
So let's use a quick example to lock this in. If I'm the head of production, I have the authority, the right to approve material purchases up to $10,000. My responsibility is to ensure the output quota is met. What is my accountability?
Your accountability is the inescapable final step, proving you did it right. Accountability always moves upward, from subordinate to superior, and it requires a formal report. It is the obligation to report back on the satisfactory execution of your responsibility and the proper use of your authority. You cannot delegate accountability. You must answer for the work you were responsible for.
So it's a linear triad. Authority is granted, responsibility is assigned, and accountability is imposed.
Exactly.
So now we get to the core mechanism that makes the hierarchy function, delegation. Theo Hammond called it the granting of authority to subordinates to operate within prescribed limits.
And delegation is not an optional nice to have, it is a compulsory act of management. No single manager can do all the work alone, particularly as enterprise grows. Delegation is the process of sharing the workload by assigning duties, entrusting authority, and simultaneously imposing responsibility.
And the importance of this is huge.
Oh, it cannot be overstated. We see 6 major advantages. 1. Relief to top executives. It significantly reduces the manager's workload, allowing senior staff to start managing routine operations and focus their time and energy on critical policy matters, strategy, and external relations.
Get out of the weeds.
Get out of the weeds. 2. It creates the scalar chain. As we saw in part 1, the act of delegation creates the chain of superior-subordinate relationships, providing the definite structure for the entire management hierarchy. 3. Specialization. It allows managers to assign jobs precisely according to the subordinates' abilities and expertise, improving the utilization of specialized human resources and boosting the firm's competitive strength.
Okay.
4. Quick decisions. When authority is delegated to the lower levels, those employees are closer to the execution point and often have better, more localized information. They can take fast, practicable decisions without the time sink of consulting higher management, avoiding red tape.
And it must motivate people, right?
Right. Massively. That's point 5. Motivation of subordinates. Granting authority provides a feeling of status and recognition. It increases independence and job satisfaction, fostering an initiative and responsibility, which inspires employees to fully utilize their skills.
And a final advantage.
6. Growth and diversification. By developing managerial talent at all levels, forcing subordinates to make decisions and take ownership, delegation ensures the organization can face future challenges, grow bigger, and undertake new business activities with confidence. It creates a robust leadership pipeline.
So if delegation is the compulsory vertical sharing of power between a manager and their immediate report, what happens when you adopt that philosophy and spread it horizontally across the entire organization?
That is the strategic policy choice between centralization and decentralization.
Okay.
Centralization is the default state, the concentration of authority at the top level of management. This is typical in small firms, newly formed companies, or during periods of crisis or emergency where uniform, swift action is required. Decentralization is the deliberate, systemic dispersal of authority across all levels of management. Our sources define decentralization explicitly as the extension of the delegation philosophy to the lowest possible level of management.
So delegation is the tool, decentralization is the policy.
That's it. Delegation is the tool. Decentralization is the policy decision to use that tool broadly.
So let's compare the policies and then dive deep into why a large company would choose to disperse authority.
The comparison is pretty stark. 1, meaning centralization is concentration at the top. Decentralization is dispersal at all levels.
Right.
2, role of subordinates. Minimal involvement in centralization, maximum involvement in decentralization. 3, main purpose. Centralization is about control and uniformity. Decentralization is about speeding up decisions and motivating staff.
And the burden on the top.
That's 4, heavy in centralization. They have to approve everything. Low in decentralization. And 5, suitability. Centralization suits small, simple organizations. Decentralization is necessary for large, complex, or diversified organizations, like those using a divisional structure.
So why is this dispersal of power, this commitment to decentralization, so beneficial for a large enterprise? It seems, counterintuitive to voluntarily surrender control.
It's the strategic trade-off of volume for velocity. You surrender microcontrol for macro agility, and we see 8 critical merits.
Okay.
1, reduces burden on top executives. By pushing routine operational decisions down, executives are freed to focus on high-stakes policy, long-range planning, and strategic threats.
Right.
2, motivation. It is a massive morale booster. Decentralization increases job satisfaction, independence, and status for lower-level managers, fostering team spirit by giving them real ownership. 3, better decisions. Decisions are generally faster and more accurate because the authority is placed in the hands of the people closest to the execution who possess the most detailed knowledge of local conditions.
And it helps with innovation.
Absolutely. 4, innovation and creativity. Autonomy allows product divisions to experiment with pricing, product features, or market approaches. This internal competition fosters growth that would never be approved by a centralized committee.
Okay.
5, development of managers. It forces subordinates to learn judgment, risk assessment, and decision-making on the fly. This guarantees a continuous supply of highly capable managers ready for succession planning.
And what about communication?
6, effective communication. By requiring fewer layers of approval, the whole communication system becomes more effective and reduces distortions. A wider span of control and fewer levels foster more intimate relationships. 7, efficient supervision and control. Lower-level managers have the authority to make local changes instantly. Control is effective because managers can be managed by objectives and held accountable to standards they have the power to influence. And 8, democratic management. It involves people at all levels in the decision-making process, creating a more participative and democratic environment.
That is a compelling list of benefits, especially in today's rapid environment. But if a company is highly regulated, or its brand requires absolute global uniformity, decentralization sounds like a recipe for disaster. What forces compel a company to pull power back toward the center?
You're right. Decentralization is not a universal cure. It has 5 major limitations that must be managed. 1, lack of coordination, loss of control. Since divisions are semi-autonomous, they may adopt a narrow sectional outlook. They focus only on winning their internal metrics, ignoring the broader organizational objectives.
They go rogue.
They can. Which can lead to a loss of overall control and, in extreme cases, corporate disintegration. 2, lack of uniformity. These centralized units may choose to follow inconsistent policies, different hiring standards, different marketing messages, leading to brand confusion. 3, heavy overheads. It requires highly qualified managers for every division, and the inevitable duplication of staff functions leads to significantly higher administrative expenses. 4, it's unsuitable for small firms. Small firms often lack the necessary complexity to justify the high cost, and certain sensitive activities like government negotiations or trade union talks simply cannot be decentralized.
Right.
And 5, external constraints. Management often faces external pressures that restrict decentralization. Increasing government intervention, growing trade union power, or intense global competition may force critical decisions to remain centralized for consistency or legal compliance.
So to leave no confusion, let's clarify the absolute difference between delegation and decentralization, because they're often used incorrectly as the same thing.
It's essential to get this right. 1, nature. Delegation is a compulsory act. A manager must delegate to survive. Decentralization is an optional policy decision taken strategically by top management.
Okay.
2, purpose. Delegation's sole purpose is to reduce the workload burden of an individual manager. Decentralization's purpose is to strategically increase the role, authority, and autonomy of lower-level managers.
And scope?
3, scope. Delegation is narrow, occurring only between a superior and their immediate subordinate. Decentralization is wide, representing the extension of the delegation policy down to the lowest level of management possible.
Okay.
4, status. Delegation is simply a process of sharing duties and authority within a relationship. Decentralization is the strategic result of a broad organizational policy decision.
And finally, freedom.
5, freedom of action. In delegation, the subordinate has less freedom because the superior maintains close control. In decentralization, the entire lower hierarchy is afforded significantly more freedom of action due to reduced top management control.
We've completed our deep dive into the architecture of organizations today, moving from, the microscopic division of labor through the high-stakes choice between optimizing for function or product, and finally into the strategic dynamic of power flow, the required act of delegation versus the optional transformative policy of decentralization. Every single decision we discussed, from the smallest job definition to the largest structural framework, fundamentally determines if an organization merely survives or truly thrives.
And the central insight for you, the learner, is the management of duality. Organizing is the process of creating predictability and control. That's the formal structure. But we established that the informal organization is equally vital. It is the source of necessary human flexibility, immediate social support, rapid communication, and crucial outlets for creativity.
Right.
Acknowledging, understanding, and managing the productive tension between the rigid chart and the dynamic social network is the true hallmark of successful leadership.
And that tension leads us to our final provocative thought for you to carry forward. We established that the formal structure is necessary for stability, and it's the mechanism for driving growth and adapting to necessary change.
Right.
Yet we know that the spontaneous, protective, informal organization often actively resists change, preferring the comfort of the status quo, if that's the case. How does management effectively leverage the stability and formal authority of the official structure to mandate and facilitate essential organizational change without accidentally triggering debilitating unified resistance from the necessary, powerful, informal groups? That requires leadership to engage with both the chart and the culture simultaneously.
That delicate balance, the negotiation between mandate and morale, between the blueprint and the water cooler network, is the eternal challenge that defines great management.
We hope this deep dive helps you navigate those organizational waters with new clarity. Thank you for joining us.
Until next time.